Hello and welcome to Comic Academy. This is Lesson 1, Getting Ideas. Let's get started. For you to get the most out of this course, there's really only one rule that you have to follow. Just try. There are many motivators for this rule. Do you feel like you're just not very good at art? That's okay, just try. There is no barrier to entry when it comes to creation. Just make something. If you make something, it is good enough. In addition, not sure an idea will work? That's okay, just try. Your idea might work, or it might not. Either way, it's okay. You'll find it eventually. Just plain not feeling it today? That's okay. Just try for a few minutes. You can always try again tomorrow. Or maybe, are you scared to make art? That's okay. Just try. The only way that we can shrink our fears is by facing it head on. By bringing the wonderful things in your head to life, you are conquering your fears. Just try, and your efforts are good enough. Before we get started, I have a couple tips for you. When it comes to creativity, true creativity, there are no new ideas. Humans have existed for bajillions of years by now. It's a little silly to assume that you have to create something that is completely free of tropes or recognizable plot beats. You're never going to make something truly original. Instead, creativity is all about remixing old ideas to make them new. And we're going to go over the several ways that we can do that. But first, I want you to remember one thing. Make something new by being you. Horribly kitschy phrase, I know, but it works. What I mean by that is you have hobbies, interests, and life experiences that combine in a unique way. By incorporating all of those into your stories, you can take old tropes and make them feel new again. And finally, one last tip when it comes to ideas. Don't get attached. Prompts and ideas are meant to be a jumping off point, not the final product. If something isn't working, just ditch it. If an idea changes, let it. Speaking from experience on this one, you want your ideas to evolve. Nothing is in its final product until it gets put out and shown with the world. Also, try not to use your editing brain when generating ideas. You might veto a fantastic idea just because you were too worried about what others might think. Finally, stay true to yourself and to your story. You can't please everyone, so there's no pressure in trying to. It is important to accept constructive criticism, but only as long as it's enhancing what you're trying to accomplish with your story. Alright, now let's move on to method 1 of getting ideas. I would consider this one to be one of the most important methods because most of creativity boils down to combining two things in a way that makes them feel new again. Now, looking back on some of these examples, they're a little quirky, a little different. They don't fit into the mold, so this is gonna be fun. Let's say I had a random noun generator and it spat out a bunch of nouns for me. If I got anime girl and bug, perhaps I could combine that to make a praying mantis Hatsune Miku. If I got a nun paired with a hitman, maybe that combines to become Osasunun, the nun who kills people. And finally, my favorite, if we combine a runner with the elderly, you get Turbo Granny. Turbo Granny is actually a legend in Japan. Basically, if you drive or run through a tunnel at night, you better watch out because Turbo Granny's gonna get you, and she runs faster than you can. There's actually an older lady at my walking track. She comes in the same time every day, and she beats me in speed walking. Like, I have to hurry to catch up, and she's just walking at her normal pace. And so I've nicknamed her Turbo Granny. Not that she knows that, but I get some amusement out of it anyway. Now let's get into the details of Method 1. Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. Like we discussed, Method 1 is all about mashing up or morphing random things together. One of the ways we can do that is to switch roles. For example, you could have a childlike mom and a motherly child. Option number 2 is to make it literal. Perhaps you have a story where everyone is an animal, and your wolf character wears a wool sweater. Perhaps this character is not what they seem emotionally, thus making them a literal wolf in sheep's clothing. Number 3 is to switch attributes. Perhaps you have a Little Red Riding Hood story, and the Big Bad Wolf is genuinely a friendly guy. Whereas when it comes to Little Red, my, what big teeth she has. That's a few more teeth than I thought could be possible to fit in the mouth of a little girl. On that horrifying note, number 4 is to juxtapose, or pair two opposites together. This can exist within the same person, like perhaps you have an assassin who is trying to be a pacifist, or you can separate them into a character dynamic. One character is an assassin who's trying to corrupt the pacifist, whereas the pacifist is trying to bring the assassin to their side. Hijinks ensue. And lastly is to play with size. Like, for example, pairing a giant hamster with a tiny skyscraper. Now, perhaps this hamster is horribly mutated and is taking over cities, knocking buildings down. Or you have a regular-sized hamster with a god complex, and a little tiny skyscraper in its little tiny cage. Now, let's put that idea into practice. There's 2 different ways that we can do this activity. Step 1 is to find a random noun generator online. This can be the first one that pops up, it really doesn't matter. Step 2 is to generate at least 2 nouns. And step 3, make a concept by combining 2 of the nouns that you received. For example, if I got raven and winter, I could get the Grim Reaper of the fields. Option number 2 is to do this with friends. Step 1 is to write a random noun on a strip of paper, and this could be anything from a chair to a vampire frog. Once you've written down your noun, fold it in half and then give it to the next person. You're going to go in a circle until all of you have a new paper. After that new paper is passed you, write a new noun without looking at the old noun. Again, this noun can be anything: person, place, thing, idea. The sky's the limit. Finally, when another paper has been passed to you, make a concept by combining those 2 nouns. Please feel free to pause the screen as needed. I would genuinely love to hear what you came up with in the comments. But now that you've done that activity, we're going to move on. Method number 2 of getting ideas. Add something to a genre that doesn't go there. I have a few examples here. Maybe you have a western, but with magical girls. Or if you're into sci-fi, ghosts in space. If that's not your thing, maybe you could have a zombie apocalypse, but in ancient Greece. Honestly, that is like a huge untapped market. Typically, zombie apocalypses are in modern day or in future day, but I've never really seen zombie apocalypses be put in like ancient times or, the olden days. It's definitely an idea worth tapping into. And while I'm thinking about it, if at any point you get an idea, write that thing down. All of these concepts are fair game. Given your unique experience as a human being, you're bound to turn these concepts into something completely different than what I would do. If something I say makes your thoughts go in a different direction, by all means, write that down as well. I'm hoping that by the end of this lesson, you'll have several ideas to play around with. Method 3 of getting ideas: remove something essential from a genre. This is the opposite of method 2. For example, we could have a murder mystery with no murderer, or even a murder mystery with no body. Or you could have a romance story with no love interest. When it comes to these 2 prompts, I'd love to hear your ideas of how you think that story would play out. Cause I'm not gonna lie, this method really forces you to think creatively. If you want a challenge, this is the one. If you're still stumped about how this idea might play out, my in-class students had some fantastic ideas for these 2. Here's what they came up with. For the murder mystery, perhaps it's revealed in the end that there really is no murderer. That person died by accident, and everyone was just blaming each other the whole time. Or in a different story, perhaps the murder is fake or a joke, or it's revealed to be a play in the end. It was never real, the characters just thought it was. For the romance with no love interest, perhaps the main character gets rejected in the end, or the main character decides to be single in the end. Honestly, with all of these prompts, the sky is the limit, and I keep repeating that phrase over and over again because honestly, if you can dream it, you can do it. No idea is too wacky or too weird, and honestly, the weirder and the more vulnerable these ideas make you feel, the more you realize that you might be on the right track with this one. While I'm thinking about it, there will inevitably be things that you create that make you feel vulnerable, out in the open. This is a sign that you've created something that's close to your heart, and thus feels emotionally true. Do not shy away from that feeling. If you shy away from that vulnerable feeling, your work will feel less emotionally resonant, which will hurt the story that you're trying to tell. If it makes you feel vulnerable, you're on the right track. Method 4 is all about asking a million what-if questions. What if my toys were alive? What if Batman was a literal bat? What if you could talk to animals? What if every time I sneezed, a random person exploded? The other half to this is that for every what if, there is a then. If we ask the question, what if I could talk to animals? With my luck, I would learn that birds intentionally poop on my car because they think it's funny. What if Batman were a literal bat? Then maybe Batman would be a vampire, or maybe everyone in this world is a bat. The great thing about Method 4 is that once you ask one question, that causes you to ask another question, and then another, and then another. Now, if you're like me, you might have to remind yourself sometimes to quit getting lost in the weeds, but this is a great way to think in a different way. If you struggle with getting an idea off the ground, this method might be for you. Okay, now it's your turn to practice. For every what if, there is a then. So you're exploring the question, what if statues came to life? Yes, I am going to sit here and wait and stare at you, like Dora, until you respond to me. No, but seriously though, I would love for you to pause the screen, commenting on what some of your answers would be. Alright, welcome back. Here's some of the things that I thought about when I asked the question, what if statues came to life? First of all, what counts as a statue? Is everything that you sculpt a statue? Does it have to be of a person or of a living thing? Do all statues come to life, or just some of them? What would make it come to life? Intention, maybe? If all statues came to life, would just anyone be allowed to make statues? Or would the government have to step in and limit who can make statues as a safety concern? Do the statues do what they tell you? Or do they do whatever they want? Are they going to try and take over the world? What if we had an all-out war with the statues? As you can tell, these questions and answers can go on and on and on as long as you want to keep asking questions. Now, one note, as you may have discovered, the bigger the change to a society, the larger scale effects that it will have. If only I could understand animals, not much about the world would change. Maybe I'd become a pet psychic, who knows? If everyone could understand animals, that would have a huge impact on the world. It would likely change how we view animals and their level of sentience, and maybe even the way we own pets, and at minimum, put pet psychics out of business. Actually, maybe it wouldn't change animal rights, considering how eager some of us humans are to calling other humans subhuman for the crime of having a darker skin tone. Yay. Going off of that a little bit, perhaps if someone told a story where all animals could talk, it could be an allegory for how we treat our fellow humans. What makes us animal? What makes us human? And who gets to decide that? I would not be the right person to tell that story, but it's a thought regardless. Going back to the statue thing, if all statues came to life, as we discovered, that could have huge societal implications. It would affect many, if not all, areas of our daily life. Alright, home stretch. Method 5 of getting ideas. Make observations from your own life. This could mean going to a park and people watching, or you could notice things about your loved ones. Like, for instance, when my dad laughs, especially if something takes him by surprise, he'll, scrunch his eyebrows together as though he's confused about why he's laughing. It's really endearing to watch. And if I wanted to, I could take that trait and I could put it into a character. Another way of pursuing Method 5 is to write down funny, scary, sad, or relatable stories from your own life. Really simple comics use this method all the time. I've seen a lot of people make daily comics that follow this premise, and I've also seen a lot of newspaper strip comics like Calvin and Hobbes that use this method. There are many more ways to implement Method 5, but one of my favorites is to keep a dream journal. I find that the less I write down my dreams, the less I remember. Thus, the more you write down your dreams, the more you'll remember. If you can't remember your dreams, write down one from the past that you remember. Or the next time you remember a dream, immediately write that down. Starting that habit will cause you to remember more of your dreams in the future. If you'd like to see this idea put into action, I would actually recommend that you read the comic Screen of Shadows. It's mine. Shameless plug. Technically, it's a light novel, but it is on Webtoon, so I call it a comic. I had a dream about a security guard who came across a bunch of demons with like screens for faces, and at first the dream looked like it was gearing up to be a horror movie. But then, one by one, the demons put these goofy little expressions on their screens and walked up to the security guard and checked them out. And eventually there was just this moment of curiosity between the two parties that was really endearing. And then I turned it into a horror comic. For those of us that have really, really weird dreams, this is going to be a great method for you. And finally, we have method 6 of getting ideas. Take a random object and describe its qualities. Then take those qualities and turn it into a character or setting. Let's do this activity together. As usual with these activities, feel free to pause the screen as needed. Our object in mind is a battery. Step 1 is to find the qualities of a battery, aka what is it and what does it do? For me, there were a few qualities that came to mind. Obviously, batteries are highly energetic. They can explode if misused, they're positively and negatively charged, they're powerful for their size, they charge other things, and they have a hard outer metal casing. Step 2. What would a person with these qualities act like? For me, someone with a battery personality could be emotionally volatile, and they put up walls to keep people out, or they could also be an energetic person who hypes up the people around them. Or maybe they give to others so much that their own battery runs dry. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas down below. One last tip before we move on to our challenge: when testing ideas, try it small first. We'll learn a lot more about thumbnailing and outlines later, don't worry about that, but thumbnailing is an extremely useful tool. We can test ideas by drawing a tiny, simple version of the art piece first. Or, if we're writing, we can start with a basic outline or short story version first. Once you have the very basic building blocks, the rest will be much easier. Trying it small is another way of failing fast. You hear that phrase sometimes in the art industry, but that just means that we're getting ineffective ideas out of the way more quickly. The less time you spend on initial ideas, the less likely it'll be that you'll cause a huge time sink for yourself and get attached to ideas when they're just not working, and you try things over and over and over again and it's still not working and you get really frustrated because you spent so much time on it, you can't quit now. Totally not speaking from experience at all. So if you learn to fail fast and ditch ineffective ideas, you'll be that much better of an artist for it. At the end of each one of these lessons, you'll have a challenge. What's the one for this week, you might ask? It is to write down all your ideas. Collect any ideas you may have floating around in your brain and put them in one spot by writing them down somewhere. This could be your handy dandy notebook, could be your iPad, could be your phone, whatever works best for you. No matter how dumb the idea is, write it down. If a prompt or example I gave inspires you, write that down as well, and see where that idea takes you. In addition, in my website listed in the card above and the description down below, I will have a list of prompts that, should you choose to use them, might help inspire you. In addition to that prompts list, each lesson is going to have its own list of resources. This and many other things can be found on the Comic Academy website. Now, you might be asking, but Ranjan, I can't think of anything. I've thought about it for a long time and I don't have a single idea that I've come up with. Well, there's an easy answer to that question. It's because you vetoed all of your ideas. Your subconscious tried to give you an idea, and then your inner critic immediately shot it down. It happens to the best of us, honestly. If this is the case for you, and you're constantly stuck in the idea phase, and you're beating yourself up because of it, it's time to flip the script. That nasty little part in your brain that tells you that you'll never be good enough, every idea you make is stupid and bad and dumb, and everyone will laugh at you. That is something called the inner critic, And it is wrong. Dead wrong. You are better than the inner critic, not only because I said so, but also because you can say so yourself. When that negative little voice in your head says that you'll never be good enough, you say, no. This is my brain, my body, I am in control, and I decide what is good or bad. I have good ideas, and I will let myself use them. The more you tell yourself that you are better, smarter, more creative than you think you are, the more your confidence will grow, and the less you'll get stuck in the beginning stages of creation. Remember, you are good enough, and so are your ideas. You are good because you try, and because you want to try. So, with that being said, go and create. The sky truly is the limit. So take those beautiful ideas that you have and release them into the world. I'm Ranjan Central. This was Lesson 1 of Comic Academy, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye!